And I'd like to put it in here, but we have a couple challenges. And one, this frame rail goes all the way down through there. If you look, you could see, hello, right there, hello, yeah. Okay, so we got that problem. And we also have a couple holes here. We have this hole which goes to the top of this, so it'll just rain out there if we put it in. And we got a couple holes here. So we have an idea. What are we gonna do for that? But first, before we go pouring that in there and making it take longer to cut it all out, kind of knock off some of the loose. So we bought two different wire wheels, one like the cone style and the other one's a wire wheel, a literal wheel. And we're gonna have to just get all this cleaned up. We can wipe it down as much as we can, and then we can vacuum it out. We want it to be as basically to the surface of the rust as possible without having a bunch of loose. And I can feel that there's loose just coming off right there, just kind of dusty, sandy. So we're gonna clean that off first, and then we'll get into what we're gonna do to get the rust out of here, at least in this section, because this is a very vulnerable area, let's say. We did have an area here, and here's the thing, if we make this work good, we can actually do it in an isolated fashion in there later in other areas if we need to, mainly these front frame rails, because they get all the turning wheels. You know, the wheels are going to be on their turns in here, and they're going to be throwing the dirt and the water and everything up into these holes, and it's going to seep down in behind the panels and all that stuff, and that's how it all gets so bad up here. Okay, so let's get this cleaned up and then we'll get into it. All right, now what we got going here is we're going to have to seal off this section of the frame rail, so one, that it doesn't go out and it doesn't come out all the holes, all the jig holes and the alignment holes and all that kind of stuff. So what I've been using here is our window weld ribbon sealer. It's basically just butyl. It's butyl rope. You get it in different thicknesses. I kind of intend to use this for windshields. I've used it for windshields, but it's probably not really recommended to do so, because the windshield could still pop out in an event of an accident. But butyl is great for other things. We use it on our cowl to kind of help reinforce a seal, and we're going to use it as a seal here as well. And I've been filling holes like the one that's about 5/8 of an inch diameter roughly here. Some of the screw holes in the bottom of the frame, some other alignment holes in the bottom of the frame, some on the back side. I went ahead and extended it up to here, and we've got the bumper bolt bracket holes. Those are plugged up. I need to plug up the one on the end, and there's one on the bottom. Actually, there's two on the bottom right here. One over here, one over here. There's one on the side, I think, where the proportioning valve mounts up. And we're just basically going to isolate this area of the frame from about here forward and make a bath out of it. Really, is what we're going to do with this concrete metal etch. Okay, so I have to kind of put a wall in here, so I cut this piece of like ABS or HD, whatever PE plastic, and we're going to put it down in there. But we have to take some of this butyl, and I'm going to kind of stretch it just a little bit, and we're going to meld it around the piece so that it makes a good seal, but leave enough to where when we put it down in there, we could squish it in and then work it into the frame rail. Now this is not permanent, obviously, so you should be able to remove it. It might be a little sticky, but it should remove, okay? And I'm just going to work it around there so it doesn't leave a little gap for the fluid to move into. So I'm just kind of, see that? Whatever you want to call that. Smushing it in or whatever. So then we have this nice sticky seal. I had already went through with our wire wheel and knocked this out, took a vac and sucked it out of there. So I'm just going to stick this in here. And we can do it at a slight angle. It have to get a little bit deeper bite on it, and then bring it in. Okay, and then I want to make sure that it's sealed against the frame rail. Even though it's a little rusty, as long as it's cleaned out, it should give you a good hold. If you have to, you can take like a plastic tool or maybe even a screwdriver. We'll try a screwdriver and just see if we can help aid it by pushing it against the surface of the frame and down in the corner, and hopefully we won't have a leak with it. At least a major leak to where it all runs out in a matter of minutes or hours or something like that. So we're going to try to... All right, many hours later, we have somewhat of a system going on. It took a little bit of trial and error, but you can see a lot of the plugs, they're holding really good. The stuff underneath's holding good. Actually, this wall that I put in there, as I started, it was not holding very good, and it was just had a constant stream coming out. Well, I let it drain, kind of reworked the butyl on it, and then this time tried it again, pushed it down in there really good, and it had maybe a drip every 5 minutes, just drip. And the big problem was down here, and it's kind of up in this. There's probably a hole somewhere up inside of here, or a pinch maybe back in this where this butts up to it, and it was allowing it to stream down there pretty good. It was just almost a constant psst, like that. So I put a barrel down here, just a little junk can from Christmas, popcorn. Put that there and absorbed all of that, or filled it up. And this is kind of where it came to its level right here. You can kind of see it kind of goes down. But it's really doing a pretty good job. And I have the brush in here, it's working as its own parts washer. And I'll just keep it wet as I work out here. Now when I go in, I'll do what I've been doing on other areas, like when I was doing the drip rails and stuff like that. I can take some like plastic grocery bags, and we could lay them in here and just stick them up in the sides after we get this nice and wet, just like that. Stick it in there, let it adhere to it, and then tomorrow it should suffocate that rust right off of there. And then you can see it's really working good. Notice the gray, it actually shows up better on the camera than it does in person, but you can see these gray areas are showing up. That's the rust just eating right off of there. And you can see same thing with that little divider right there. And we'll see what it looks like there through the camera. Well, it's looking pretty good. So you can see little bits of metallic floating around in there and the bubbles and that kind of thing. So this will really concentrate on the core area of the frame rails that really like to rot. And with some of that just kind of running down through there, that should help that too. I mean, anything helps. And then when we get done with it, we'll rinse it out good and then treat it. Put some Eastwood up inside of there. After we put it all together, we can use all the holes, pull the butyl off, and just have a jolly time fixing that right. But we have some other areas, and we need to keep working, keep productive. Because what I did as I was letting this soak, I was like, well, I need something else to do, and I had an alternator I went ahead and put on the van. It got dark, got it done just in time so it runs again. No squealing alternator bearing, and it charges, so that's good. We just have to figure out another issue on it. But I thought, well, we come back in over here. We've got one of our inner fenders off, and what I'm going to do is get this rust off as well. Now this tote that I've been using for all our parts, I emptied it out. We're going to put fresh in there. It almost takes this whole thing, almost. I wish it was another like 2 inches longer, but we can do something like clean the ends up, and we could stand it up in there and let it soak, and only needs about 2 inches maybe deep, and we can even tilt it again if we have to. Ideally, if we just had a bigger thing, we'd submerge the whole thing down in there, but we don't, and stuff does cost a little bit of money, and we can make do with what we got. So I'm going to go ahead, wire brush some of this off, maybe take some sandpaper to it, all that up in there. I need to trim that little piece off there before I can get into it. And then we'll have some soak time, because this thing could also, it's actually touching bottom there, and it comes up. So we might be able to soak that there, that way, and maybe tilt the bowl, the tote, a little bit. But you just got to kind of be creative, I think, when you don't have, you know, vats to dip your car in. So we'll just try to figure it out that way, and we'll jump on through.
is a great time to like and subscribe to the Hoosier Garage.
All right, so we're about to call it a night. And as you can see, if you kind of look in there, you can see the metal is already clearing up. And this has only been in here for about an hour. Years of rust. So everything else that's out of the pool, this is the pool. If it's out of the pool like this, where there was some rust where the paint couldn't cover, up these edges here where the welds were, same thing over here and all the way down, I just soaked it really good with our brush, those edges, and threw the plastic grocery bags down over it. And then in some cases like this, I just let it just go up in there and it just kind of soaks and seals it up, and it'll just leach in there and hold for the night, and hopefully hold that acid to the metal, to the rust, and chew it right off there like it's been doing there. And the car itself is not immune to this because we've got it in here all along the edges, the walls, at least as far as we could muster up in this direction. And let the rest of that just soak in that pool inside the frame rail. And then all these flanges here, where that piece over there, the inner fender apron, all the way up to here, every surface where there's that rust, years of rust build up, we're going to just eat it right off of there. Okay, and even back on this part here. So that's what we got for tonight. Pretty good progress. I was away for about 3 hours of my garage time today. We was attending a function, so was able to kind of catch up and get all this under control. And get this here dipped, pretty much. Yeah, it'd be great if we had a vat we could just drop this whole car into that stuff right there. Maybe someday we'll dig a pit, put some cranes or something out, or dollies or whatever, and just dip a whole car in it. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Let's go to the next scene.
WFBQ Indianapolis. Indie rocks on FBQ 95.